Welcome to Town Hall here on WHCP Radio. I'm Marco Garcia.
And I'm Dave Wooten. Every first Wednesday, Cambridge Mayor Andrew Bradshaw and the rotating pair of Cambridge commissioners join us here to take over Mid-Shore Midday to update the community on issues of concern and to answer your questions, which you can post and chat on the WHCP Facebook or YouTube streams.
Joining Mayor Bradshaw today is Ward 3 Commissioner Jamison Harrington and Ward 5 Commissioner Chad Malkus. Let's get right to opening remarks. Mayor Bradshaw, welcome back to Town Hall.
Really quickly, we've got an action-packed agenda coming up for our council meeting on Monday. A number of items are on the agenda. Mill Street School is one that's been of pretty heavy discussion here as of late. The building that was previously known as the Academy School and then later served as Golden Shores Christian School has been essentially abandoned for about 2 decades. And there's discussion of residential redevelopment in there. We're going to be working on that in the upcoming agenda. And in addition to that, we're also going to have some discussion and a vote on a topic related to the 500 block of Race Street, densities, uses, and things of that nature, so that we can try to move forward with redevelopment on the block where we sit right now. Historic Hearn building is located here. There's been work ongoing with the building. Slowly but surely, the roof is now going back on it. Once that roof is in place, those metal posts that have been holding up the facade for darn near half a decade, I would think, at this point, they'll be able to come down, and at that point, we can really talk about what it's going to take to get that building back into productive use. Some other topics as of late that I think we'll probably touch on today. Human resources for the city of Cambridge, huge topic. We've asked that the commissioners provide alternative approaches for discussion coming up in August. And fireworks, right? We had a great professional fireworks show, but the amateur fireworks are unfortunately a quality of life issue that we're facing here in the city, and so we've been working with Cambridge Police and allied agencies to try to address it, as well as reaching out to the community and trying to work with them. So far, the results have been sub what we would have hoped, but nevertheless, I think that there is headway being made on that issue. Turn it over to Commissioner Harrington for any remarks he has.
Well, first, it's good to be back here at the station again. Thank you for having us on. I got to say, Andrew pretty much covered it all. But I do want to add, before I forget, that this weekend, Saturday the 10th, we are doing another community cleanup starting at the community pool. And those who participate get a free pool pass. So I hope to see some friendly faces out there. Thank you.
Commissioner Malkus.
Yeah, it's great to be back again, and it's good that you guys host this so we can get the word out to the community. We've all on the council want to be as communicative as possible, and we try to be tech savvy in the best way possible as far as social media and getting the word out about things. But the mayor covered it all. We've got a lot of stuff happening, and we've had some pretty full agendas and some spirited debate about many of the issues facing the city. But I think we're we like to try to work together and find compromise where we can, and see exactly what we can do to move the ball forward. I'm wearing a Clemson football shirt, so it's moving the ball forward, goal line. I'm going to pepper my speech today with a lot of football references just to prepare for the fall football season. So,
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Up first, we have congratulations on another spectacular fireworks display. It's a great show for our town. How's it financed each year?
You want to take this one, Chad?
I couldn't hear the question. I'm not hearing Marco.
He was asking how the fireworks display, the official fireworks display is financed. How we make payment on that.
It was my understanding. Isn't it? Do we still have a grant, or is it?
It's like an endowment.
Yeah, it's an endowment. I think from it was from the DuPont family from a long time ago, but I'm not sure if that had been used up. But either way, it was pretty much the best fireworks display I've seen in Cambridge in forever, basically. And each year it seems like they get better, but this year was just absolutely fantastic. And I was fortunate enough to be out on the chop tank watching it, and that's a great place to see. And I've never seen so many boats out either, watching the fireworks display. So it was really, really cool.
Compared to last year's display, I mean, this one just really, it was almost like last year's didn't even happen or something. The
Yeah,
quality
exactly.
this year.
Exactly.
No, but seriously, I mean, we already have a reputation as having one of the best fireworks displays in the state as a result of the location, the waterfront on the point, visibility from across the city, and this year's, I think, was above and beyond anything that we've had previously. The use of different elevations with the display, having things going on high in the sky, at near ground level as well. I mean, it was just unbelievable. And
It was
I'm sure the
certainly better
Commissioner
than
Harrington-
Ocean Cities too.
Yeah, well, Ocean Cities went out with a bang, right? So,
Yeah.
But I would imagine Commissioner Harrington got some decent photographs of it too.
I did. I got a couple good ones.
All right, what is the status of the HR and legal department deliberations?
So Monday night we had a work session, and I think there's universal agreement that the city's human resources has to be handled in a more serious fashion and in a more professional fashion, and in a fashion that provides more attention to it as an important part of what's ongoing and what occurs in the city, and ensuring that city employees are protected, the city's protected, the citizens are protected. How that looks and how we get there still has not been decided. And ultimately, I think what we're going to do now, and what I requested of the commissioners, was everyone's got their own ideas. So let's put it all on paper, and let's come back the first week of August, and let's take a look, see where the mutual agreement is, and then go from there with regard to what is a best practice, what is typical, and what fits our need in the city of Cambridge most. So it's going to be pretty deliberative, but it's going to be, the starting point is getting everyone at the table now that there's universal agreement of the need to get them to say and provide the alternative that they think is the best starting point. With regard to legal department, I really think this is a misnomer that has been continually discussed. As the city attorney stated on Monday night, this provides no functional change to what we have. It just makes official what has been tradition within the city for a long time. It doesn't change the fact that we can go to an outside firm. It doesn't change anything with that regard. All it does is really put the process into the charter whereby there is a legal department. The only real reference to it previously had been a reference within the charter to a Maryland Court of Appeals case from the 1940s. And we see that actually with a lot of things that are referenced in the charter, and this is a broader discussion to have. There's reference in the charter to a Department of Public Works, but there's no establishing language for a Department of Public Works. There's reference to other bodies within the city, but then no establishing language for those bodies. So it's assumed that those bodies exist, but there's nothing that makes those bodies exist. We still even see reference within the code and within the charter in a few places to a clerk-treasurer. And while I realize that language when we established the city manager position superseded the clerk-treasurer position, nevertheless, for cleanness of the document, some of these things need to be addressed. And the legal department thing was really and is really just about making official that which is already occurring on a regular basis. But with regard to HR, everyone's going to have to come back to the table with their own proposals, and then we'll go from there.
Thank you, guys. Is there an unresolved issue in the work done due to separate storm and sewer drains in the past along Water Street?
I don't think that there is an unresolved issue. What we see, most of the sanitary sewer system in the West End was constructed prior to 1920. So we're working with a 100-plus-year-old sewer system throughout the historic district for the most part. Some repairs have been made, some replacements have been made, but by and large, you're working with a 100-year-old system. And so what we see with large storms like what we had isn't that there's infiltration between the storm and sanitary sewer systems, but instead that there's direct groundwater infiltration into the sanitary sewer system because of a lack of hardening and a lack of age. We had a grant request in to FEMA for repairs to that. Got notification back last week that that had been unfortunately denied. And so now it's back to the drawing board with regard to financing the repairs and the hardening of that system. And one of the things we're going to have to look at now, because that FEMA grant was denied, is use of potentially some of the ARPA funds that are going to be allocated to the city for those kinds of uses, because a huge immediate issue with a sewer system that sees that level of infiltration.
What is the status on the High Street house where the tragic fire occurred?
Man, we wrote the questions for me this week, huh? So the fire marshal completed their investigation probably about 3 weeks ago. There is a private investigator that's also conducting some investigation on it as well. It's unclear if that's the downstairs residents that have that private investigator, or if that is the upstairs, the surviving residents from the upstairs who have that private investigator. But regardless, until their investigation's complete, it remains in the status that it's in. The city has issued a demolition permit for the structure to be demolished subsequent to the conclusion of all investigations and things of that nature. So, and an extension, I believe, has been granted on that demolition permit because of the ongoing matter with the private investigator.
Thank you. What is the status on the Mill Street School overlay zoning issue?
I'll let Commissioner Malkus take that one since he's a former land use attorney. Hold on, Chad. It looks like you're muted. Oh, the mic is not connected, it says. We've got some technical difficulties here, folks. Work with us. What I will say is...
Okay, are we unmuted now?
No.
Yeah, we are unmuted
Okay.
now.
Oh,
Okay.
you are.
All right.
Okay.
All right. I'm having tons of technical issues today. I can't hear anybody speak. So with the Mill Street overlay, this process has been going on for a really long time, and there's been a lot of potential developments there, and they've each one has sort of hit a roadblock in one way or another. This, I think, is the most has the most potential for actually working. And I think they worked with the developers worked with a lot of the residents in the area, looking at ways in which they could redevelop the property, which would be a very good thing considering it's been sitting vacant for literally decades and decades. And the units that would be placed in there are condominium style units, and I can't remember the exact size, but then the rest of it is looked at to be sort of open space and some park area and that sort of thing. So I think it has some really good potential. One of the things we might look to do, though, in order to sort of protect ourselves and protect the city when we do a zoning overlay like this, is maybe look at it to expire in 6 months or a year if they have not followed through with developing. So we don't want it to be a situation where we approve this and then it sits for another 5 years. So we'd like to sort of basically incentivize them to keep working on it and make sure that it gets done.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think there is a real desire to see something positive happen with the property. I don't think the neighbors want the property to be in the condition it's in. They just have some concern or some trepidation about what's going to happen there because they don't want the project to fail.
Is there any progress being made on marina issues?
So, with regard to marina issues, we're very happy with what Oasis has been doing as of late. Scott Fitchu, who is the dock master with Oasis, who was previously a city employee, has done a spectacular job. He and I need to meet here soon and discuss some other issues that are ongoing that they're seeing down there. But ultimately, it's a public asset for the city, and we've got to balance its public nature against the needs of individual slip holders as well. And that's something that's going to take a balance, and that's going to take ongoing discussion with Scott and with Oasis.
I'd also like to add that I watched the fireworks from that cement dock that goes out by the lighthouse, and I was impressed how clean it was. You know, usually you go out there and there's bird droppings and feathers, but pristine. So it seems like they're doing a good job of keeping things clean and maintained.
Yeah, when you have a marina in a city, it's sort of like sometimes like having a golf course at a hotel or something. It's sometimes it's looked at as, oh my gosh, this is such a drain on finances, but it's an amenity, and it's an amenity to our city. It's one of those unique characteristics that we have, large municipal marina. And I was just up in New England not too long ago, and there's a lot of marinas and a lot of waterfront up there, obviously, but it really didn't hold a candle to the size and the quality of our marina down here. And I think it's a really great asset that we have, and it's something we definitely need to maintain and make sure is taken care of. And it's I love meeting sailors and boaters that are here for the weekend or coming in from other areas.
Thank you, guys. What will be the next significant citywide milestone? Opening of the Shore Regional Medical Center. When will demolition begin on the old hospital?
So that's probably the next significant citywide milestone. I could think about the question a bit and come up with some other things that may be upcoming as well. But this is going to be a huge milestone. I think it's generally going to be a very positive thing. There are some concerns and trepidations I've heard from within the community, but by and large, I think it's going to be for the positive. Right now, it's looking like build-out's going to be complete on the facility by mid-September, and it looks like occupation will occur by the end of October. With regard to demolition of the old hospital, right now, CWDI, Cambridge Waterfront Development Incorporated, after we've engaged and concluded the transfer of the port property to them, they now need to be engaging with University of Maryland Medical System with regard to acquisition of that property. The state's committed significant funds to the demolition of the old hospital building and remediation of the site with regard to matters like lead, matters like mercury, low-level radioactive materials that are used for X-rays and things of that nature. And so the state's made a huge commitment there, but that can't occur until the property acquisition occurs. So, right now, CWDI is and needs to continue to be talking to University of Maryland Medical System, and once that's concluded, then the demolition can occur. That could be anywhere from late 2021 through the mid part of 2022. It's really dependent upon the University of Maryland Medical System's engagement within the negotiation of the transfer, and then also the speed with which CWDI can engage any kind of demolition contractor, and also the production of those funds that have been allocated.
Yeah, and if I can add to that, the great thing that we have facing us is that for the longest time, and I've been a part of the Sailwinds board for many years and overseeing that property and the playground and the amphitheater and that sort of thing, and the development of the property was always our hands were sort of tied because we had the hospital right in the middle of it. And when basically a new regime came in, they became much more open to the idea of not only a new hospital, as opposed to redeveloping the existing hospital, but obviously moving away from that site. And it always seemed unfortunate that one of our most prime pieces of property on our waterfront had a hospital in the middle of it. Not that hospital residents should have a nice view, but at the same time, it's not necessarily the highest and best use of the property. So we're in a really, really great position now that we're actually able to talk about future uses for the property and the opening of the new hospital, but also the demolition of it, because really the development is going to be the redevelopment of the property will struggle without the actual demolition of that. And unfortunately, because of the size and the nature of the property, as the mayor was indicating, it's going to be expensive. It's going to be expensive to do. So, we're looking and hoping for significant help from the state to do it. Like the mayor said, they've already committed a significant portion, but it will be very pricey to take that down. But I'll ride the wrecking ball on the way in, because I've been wanting to see it go for a long time.
I was hoping we'd use explosives myself, but
Yeah.
it's been indicated that may not be the best and highest use of those explosives.
Maybe
However,
we just get the OC fire department down here. So.
well, I was thinking if we could collect some of the illegal fireworks in the city, perhaps we could just bundle them and.
That's adaptive reuse right there.
Right, exactly.
That's good stuff.
Use the assets available.
Right.
All right, thank you for the discussion. Is there any discussion, speaking of that, about sidewalks on Leonard's Lane? And is Woods Road under the city, county, or state control? There's two separate questions there.
Well, I'll start with the second question, and the answer is yes. Woods Road is a mess. It's a hodgepodge. And actually, to best answer the question, I just pulled up both the county's GIS viewer, the Geographic Information System viewer, and then the city's own election district maps, so that I could answer this in the best and most accurate way I could. So portions of Woods Road are under county jurisdiction, and portions of Woods Road are under city jurisdiction. The only portion of Woods Road that is totally under city jurisdiction is from essentially Chesapeake Drive, where the Fastenal store location is that cuts to Maryland Route 16, from there to the railroad tracks. That small section, which is probably about, I'd say maybe 600, 700 feet, is fully within city jurisdiction. There's another portion of Woods Road that runs from Chesapeake Drive to the highway that about one lane of the four present is within city jurisdiction. The portion from the railroad tracks to Fieldcrest Drive is totally county jurisdiction. We might have a little piece of it at Fieldcrest, just to about 100 feet on each side of Fieldcrest, and then it's under county jurisdiction again all the way to the traffic circle. So part of the problem with getting repairs done over the years has been jurisdictional issues with regard to who funds what occurs where. And one of the efforts that had been made previously that really should continue to be made is having Woods Road, because it's a connector between two state-maintained roads, transferred to state highway. When the state stopped maintaining the state hospital property in the late 90s, early 2000s, that may have been a window when it could have occurred. I know that it's a priority of the Midshore Regional Council as an economic development project, and as the city's representative to Midshore Regional Council, Scott Werner and I have discussed the need to really focus on Woods Road again because of the opening of the hospital, because it's going to be, the new location is going to be accessed primarily for ambulances from Woods Road, and because of the ongoing economic redevelopment with the industrial park along that corridor. I hand it off to the other commissioners if they have anything to add on Woods Road or Leonard's Lane as well.
Yeah, the only thing I'd add, and I'm gonna speak for Commissioner Roach, because if he were here, he'd want me to say this. But one of the things that we are also looking at, and I know that the Traffic and Safety Committee is looking at, is to get out of the mindset of necessarily that we need sidewalks, where multi-use trails can actually think of the trail next to the Hyatt property that is basically a smaller blacktop trail, but can be used by bikes, by pedestrians, by many different things. And those type of multi-use trails are easier to maintain. They're less expensive to make. They're typically safer because there's typically a little bit more of a gap of grass and that sort of thing. And they're good ways to connect pedestrian traffic around the city. If you go to Hilton Head Island, for example, they have trails like that across the entire island. And in many cities, a lot of cities are moving more towards getting away from expensive sidewalks, curbing, et cetera. If the primary goal is to get pedestrians or bicycle traffic from one place to another. So it's something I hope we continue to look at and see as possibilities there.
And I do just want to, because it says it needs sidewalks too regarding Woods Road. And speaking of paths, one thing we're talking about is potentially working with State Highway to take possession of the roadbed for the defunct railroad that runs through that area as well, and working that into a citywide trail network too.
And just to add, on Leonard's Lane, they recently installed, I believe, led by Commission President Cephas and Commissioner Roach and the Traffic and Safety Committee, they installed a new sidewalk or a crosswalk to the new Boys and Girls Club location with traffic calming features. So if you haven't seen that, drive by and check it out.
And that's a pilot for a more permanent construction that would occur if we find that it does slow traffic in the area, and if it does help with that.
So I just want to clarify a little bit here. Is there discussion or is there not discussion about sidewalks on Leonard's Lane? I
Yeah.
possess this question.
There is part of it is the existing infrastructure doesn't work well with installation of curbing and sidewalks. So if it's done, it's going to have to be part of a broader project with the Leonard's Lane corridor. But with the effort at the traffic calming and the crosswalk, part of that's to see how that works, and then it's also to look at the expansion of a path parallel to the street versus a traditional sidewalk.
Thank you.
Thank you. Oops, we lost the question. Are there any plans of furthering public transportation due to the relocation of social services?
I have a meeting coming up in the next, I believe, 2 weeks with Delmarva Community Transit, which is operated by Delmarva Community Services, and their new Director of Transportation, which is a name that we probably all recognize, Keith Adkins, who is the former county manager. And that meeting is going to be about, one, the use of DCS within the community, trying to find methods to expand ridership, and also make more visible and available the service that exists, but also making it more clear that we have that transportation system available. And in addition to that, as Commissioner Roach, who is watching us from Facebook Live right now, points out, the Rails to Trails Trail would also be a connector to that location via the path network and the existing infrastructure once you get to some of the other areas.
Brian must really be bored if he's listening to us today.
Well, we could bring him on, but then we've got to public notice it, and so it's a little tough. But no, so the conversation, I'm looking forward to the conversation with DCT to see what they want to do to expand their services, what they want to do to expand the awareness of their services, because we've got people that don't realize that there are public buses in this community right now. They're very underutilized and could be used to a much greater extent. And part of that's visibility, part of it's advertising, awareness, perception, all those things.
Did we get rid of that trolley-looking bus that we used to have?
So I think they still have that, but it was made. Some repairs were being made or something like that. I don't recall.
No.
I'll make sure to specifically let Keith know that Commissioner Malkus wants his trolley bus
I
to
want,
be.
yeah. I really, that was something I always admired, and now that, I'm part of city government, this is, things that I want to see working.
You know,
All right. Well,
everyone.
thank you.
When I discussed bringing in a cable car system, everyone said it was probably too expensive. So
Light, the Cambridge light rail.
I'm still rooting for a monorail.
Yeah, that's right.
All right.
It's your
Thank
first
you,
Simpsons
guys.
reference.
How's the packing house project coming? Any updates on that?
I'll jump in on that. We actually just had a tour not too long ago. The mayor and myself and who else was on that tour?
city manager was there. I think
Manager. Yeah,
director of planning was there, I believe.
yeah. And it is. I mean, talk about a fantastic building. When that thing is done, it is just going to be a showpiece, and some really exciting things going in there, including the what is it called, Blue Oyster, or what is the exact name, Mayor?
Blue Oyster Environmental.
Yeah, Blue Oyster Environmental, and some really, really neat plans with that, with food service as well as beer garden, and some really a lot of potential. The atrium there, the public space, is just going to be jaw dropping, and watching this building come together is really really been fun to watch, and a lot of great stuff happening there, as well as in the adjacent Cannery Park. That is going to be sort of a crown jewel of the city when that is all completed. So, it's a process, and we got to make sure that we're able to find as much grant funding for the park and the part that the city is going to be taking care of, because if we can bring all of the designs and plans to fruition that are planned for that property, I think it's going to be pretty epic for the city. But the amount of commercial activity and people that will be using the packing house is really going to be a game changer for the city, I think, and it's going to be fun watching it come online. And that's been the work of a lot of people over many, many years. So while we'll hopefully be in office when everything is completed, we're not going to be the ones to take full credit for it, because it's really been a work of a lot of people in city government, a lot of organizations to make that all come to fruition.
And my hope is with it as well that it does what it's supposed to do, and it'll be an economic driver and a large workforce there. But my hope too is that some of these other areas that are parallel to it, the former Phillips locations across Washington Street that have burned over the years, hopefully this unlocks the potential of that corridor as well, because those sites are well, to call them underutilized is an understatement. They're not utilized. They're darn near brownfield, and the hope is that this can be a catalyst for some investment in that area as well. I met with and spoke with a gentleman who does some commercial development last week, and he said, look, my focus is more along main traffic corridors, essentially Route 50 in Cambridge. He said, but those sites, especially with things like packing house happening, they have potential that was unrealized because there was nothing around them forcing the realization of it. And so now with these kinds of projects, that can really be a catalyst, not just for that particular site, but for the sites that surround it too.
Exactly.
Thank you, guys. Are there any other new projects that have been hinted at? Anything you can confirm or deny, or at least say stay tuned? You will not believe what's coming.
There's a few things that I'm aware of that are expansions of existing businesses that I think if you stay tuned, I think it's going to be some really exciting stuff. We're already seeing some expansion of existing businesses downtown. We've got RAR is about to open sort of an expansion of their location that's going to be additional brewing and workspace, but also an area for private parties, an expansion of their bar, and actually having a full bar, not just selling beer. And a really styled place. Something that is going to remind you of something you'd see in New York or DC. Sort of a hip vibe downtown, and plus a 148 inch screen television, which I think will be good once again for football season. But you know, I think it's really fantastic when you start to count up the number of restaurants downtown that even through COVID have survived and have expanded and are looking at doing more. So we have something to the tune of 18 to 19 restaurants in our downtown core, and I think some cities would kill to have that many. And you can really run the gamut of dining, from Indian cuisine to barbecue to French to Italian to Mexican and everything in between. So I think it's a really exciting time for Cambridge. And as we know, when you have a town that's sort of a restaurant destination, that can help lift the other stores in the retail world. And as we know, brick and mortar sort of retail is more and more difficult to find and to maintain. So everything we can do to have that is a good thing.
All right, if you would, tell us about the COVID money. What plans are under discussion?
So, we've talked about this before. One of the big things that this is being looked at is kind of a reset, where things have been passed over or have been missed over the course of years or decades. So if we're able to use it in that fashion, if we're able to use it to get us out of a funding hole for some items, we want to do that. The restrictions that are placed on the money are fairly expansive and make it difficult to use it for some things we'd like to potentially. But areas where it can be used are support for nonprofits, emergency services, including fire and police, and infrastructure, broadband internet, and water infrastructure. And so we talked earlier about the grant that we did not receive on some of the wastewater infrastructure in the West End. That's an area that needs to be discussed. Fire service apparatus is on average now 22 years old, so that's an area that needs to be discussed. Lack of accessibility for internet in some of our community, or for quality internet services, that's an area to be discussed. And also, with some of these, particularly the internet, these are areas where we can make an investment that we can see a return on the investment as well. So that's something that needs to be talked about. But the big thing right now is using it to get us out of a hole, because unfortunately, I think Cambridge in the past balanced its budget by deferment and by an unwillingness to fill positions that were needed, and it was done because the money just wasn't there. It wasn't because we were being stingy. It's because the money didn't exist. Now we're seeing investment. We're seeing property values rise in the community. Now we've got the opportunity to use this money to get out of the hole, and then use the incoming revenues to stay out of the hole.
Thank you, guys. Any update on the Hearn building?
Is that Jameson's ward? Let Jameson field that question.
Well, I believe actually Mayor Bradshaw touched on it earlier in the show, but they are, I believe, finishing up the roof, and hopefully we can get those supports that have been on the sidewalk and blocking access taken down here in the near future. I know we'll be talking about on the July 12th council meeting, some of the options that we have zoning wise for that area and that building as well. So,
one thing I will add to that, though, is, a lot of people ask, why would you save that facade? Why would you even save it? Why didn't you let it fall in on itself? Well, there's a reason why, and many cities actually look to pay for it themselves. We're certainly not having to do that, but the grant funding has helped that in some ways. But the reason why is if you look at our downtown, most of the areas where there's a gap or a parking lot or that sort of thing, or where a former building was or had burned down or that sort of thing. And typically, when it burns down or falls in, it doesn't get redeveloped. The good thing about keeping a facade like that, and we have a few examples here in town, is that if you look to redevelop that property, you can use many historic tax credits to really help for the funding of that. And so that goes hand in hand with sort of a redevelopment of a property like that. So while it is somewhat unsightly to have those beams and things there to hold it up for the last couple of years, it does allow for the potential redevelopment of the property, as opposed to sort of this gap tooth smile downtown where you have vacant properties and that sort of thing. And nobody wants to see vacant properties. We want to see the redevelopment of these buildings, and it's expensive to do. So anything we can do to help encourage that and to allow for that, even though you put up with a little bit of unsightliness for a couple of years, it does allow ultimately for the redevelopment of those properties. So it's a good thing.
And I'm going to add to that and just say that in addition to what the commissioners have said, this is the kind of building that once you lose it, you will not rebuild a building like that again. The costs to have that level of architectural detail and those kinds of things, hard to pass on. However, with that being said, we're seeing a resurgence in our downtown by and large. We're seeing restaurants, stores, places like Cabin Fever Play Center. I mean, all this investment's a great thing, and we want to continue that. So anything that occurs, we've got to be very careful that it's contributory and not detracting from the rest of the downtown redevelopment. We don't want it to stifle ongoing redevelopment. And so as we work toward the next steps with that building, we're certainly not going to stifle development, as I say, but we are going to be very, I think, picky about what that development looks like at times to ensure that it's not going to harm the investments that have been made by others in the downtown.
All right, just like to remind everybody that if you have a question, you can ask it in chat. The question that we have before us now is, how's getting the police department staffing coming?
We're working, the city and Cambridge Police are each working on a press release on this because it's a pretty big deal. Our academy class, I believe, entered the academy to either yesterday or today, and it is a class of 6. The prior largest academy class for the city of Cambridge Police Department was 5 following the terrorist attacks on September 11th, 2001. So in spite of what has been difficulty, I think, for police over the course of the last year and a half, and certainly public discussion about the role of policing, what policing looks like, and things of that nature, we have broken records for our department with regard to recruiting. In addition to that, we have 3 certified officers coming from Anne Arundel County who will be joining the department mid-month this month. So in the month of July, should everything go well with the academy members, we will have 9 new officers who are either going to be going through training or coming onto the force. It's really gratifying, and a lot of the credit goes to the commissioners for the support they've shown for Cambridge Police, and to the officers for believing in the city and believing in the agency and going out and getting the work done with some recruiting on their own as well. Really a credit to in this particular climate to be able to grow the department is a huge deal. Talking to Chief Lewis, he said that conceivably, and we don't know that this will be the case, but conceivably we could be back to a full roster by the end of the fiscal year, which would be the first time in a decade.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on what the mayor was saying, our first few moves within the council were really directed and focused primarily towards the police department and our first responders in general. And it's unfortunate it went it went without that the police department went without any sort of additional funding for quite some time in order to address their staffing needs. But it's been exciting to watch having those new recruits come in, and also that some of the actions that we've taken are already yielding good results. And the one message we've all wanted to convey as a unified council is that we are behind you. We support the police. We support the work that they're doing, and seeing them in action is really it's really rewarding to watch. The patience that I've personally seen officers show in difficult situations. We really have a great police force, and we look to expand that so we can address some of these needs that have unfortunately been there for quite some time.
Thank you, guys. What keeps you awake at night that concerns you about the city's future?
I sleep like a baby.
Well, as of late, fireworks have kept me up at night. But on a serious note, keeping things moving forward, I want to make sure that we as elected officials, but also the city's professional staff, never get complacent, because complacency breeds failure. And this place has too much value. The people here have too much value to fail. I think that through the years we've seen success and we've seen failure, and I don't want to I don't want to see that occur. That's really what keeps me up at night is keeping things moving and thinking about after we've come and we've gone, continuing a positive flow within the city government as well. I don't want us to be one bright flare in the night. I want us to be the catalyst for the next group that comes behind us and the next group after them to be really serious and to really care and to take big, broad outlooks on things and to be open to alternatives when we might not otherwise, when those alternatives might not be the first position one would take.
Yeah, and just to echo that, there's just a lot of exciting things happening in the city, and so just making sure we're doing everything to keep that moving forward is a big deal. Obviously, in my ward, there's a few exciting things: the waterfront redevelopment and the packing house, as well as the new hospital and some of the other things that are going in. So, all of that is exciting, but it's also challenging, and making sure that we're doing everything possible to keep that moving forward and to supporting things like CWDI, making sure that they have all the tools they need so that they can seek out redevelopment of that property. And all of that goes sort of hand in hand with keeping this city moving forward. But the one thing I really try to do when people complain about something or that sort of thing is I try to look at all the different positives here. And speaking as somebody that's grown up here and has seen a vacant downtown and have it and seen a lot of blight and watching it over the years and a lot of the efforts of many people come to fruition is really exciting. So, I stay focused on the positive, and I think all of us on the council try to do that as much as possible.
I think Mayor Bradshaw and Commissioner Malkus both summed it up pretty well. Personally, being new to this, I'm always afraid I might make a wrong decision somewhere. But, we've got a great group of constituents that always try to keep us honest and on our toes, as long as our city staff and my fellow commissioners. At the end of the day, we're all on the same team and want the same thing. So I think as long as we remember that, positive things will come from it.
All right. Thank you for what you had to share on that. This next question is interesting to me. I've thought about this for years. The salaries for teachers and police are not competitive, Many young people come to the community over the years to gain experience and then leave for higher salaries elsewhere. Is there a way to reconcile this?
Well, I can't speak to teachers because that the school board sets salaries and the county funds the school board. But with regard to Cambridge Police, the idea that our salaries are no longer competitive is no longer true. Our starting salary is now greater than that of Easton Police, for example, which is an agency that has not had the recruiting issues that we've had. By making the effort that we made with this current budget cycle, our officers are back in line with the step raises, the annual step increases that they were promised when they were hired. So this idea that our police are underfunded or have been defunded, that's no longer the case by any means.
And to add to that, and I completely agree, obviously, with what the mayor's saying. I mean, we've made a very concerted effort in regards to the police department, and no, we don't have obviously control over teachers' salaries. But I will say that in my conversations with Superintendent Bromwell, he's got some really innovative and good ideas for making our teacher salaries much more competitive, and possibly if he's able to enact some of the changes that he wants to do, will actually be one of the most competitive on the shore, better than most of the counties on the shore, and some better than some in the rest of the state, which would be a really exciting time. And we've got a great, our downtown in particular sees a lot of new teachers and people moving into our downtown because it's an exciting place to live, particularly in our downtown core. It's a great spot for teachers and some of the apartments that are downtown. And I hope that the county will make every effort to do that. There are some things that I'd like to look at tax wise from the property tax perspective. Some efforts that the city took in the past that I think they really they did it sort of half measures. And one of the things that we had an economic development study done by a great economist here in Maryland, Anirban Basu. One of the things that he identified was if we can make some tax incentives for particularly over 55, people over the age of 55, to move into the city. Basically a tax abatement for a period of time on your city property taxes. It can really spur and continue the growth and influx of people into the city. When you have people over 55 coming into the city, it's sort of a great demographic. One, because they don't put a lot of strain on the schools and other infrastructure, and two, they're more likely to actually encourage other people to move into the city, retirees and that sort of thing. It's a good thing to have. But yes, property taxes are expensive, and it's something that we look to address in the coming years and seeing what we can do in order to make this a very desirable place to live.
Thank you, guys. How is the county-city relationship going?
Like
Woo,
everything,
that's a good one.
It's got ups and downs, right? But by and large, we want to end up in the same place, and that is fully solvent, that is growing, that is providing good services, that is maintaining our traditions and our way of life while also being able to evolve and grow economically into the future. So in that regard, the city and the county relationship is great because we all have the same end goals. How you get to those goals is where there's differentiation and not always agreement. And what role the city of Cambridge plays versus the county at large is also an area that's not always in total agreement. Because, look, realistically, our county is dependent upon representative elected officials who represent particular geographic areas of the county. And if you live in El Dorado, Brookview, your connection to the city of Cambridge is not going to be nearly as great as the person that lives on Whitehall Road. Likewise, if you live in Vienna, you probably economically have a closer connection to Salisbury than you do to the city of Cambridge. So that's understandable and it's realistic, and that's something that we face. And some other counties have gotten over issues of that nature in the past with things like at-large representatives on their council and things like that. And is that an answer for us? Maybe, maybe not, because our issue right now is to work with the county as it's constructed, and that's what we're going to do. I just had a good conversation yesterday with some folks over at County EMS. They've got a drill upcoming for preparation if there was some kind of an issue that occurred at Calvert Cliffs Nuclear Power Plant. They coordinate with the city. Their emergency operations center is in the city's public safety building, and they were coordinating with me to ensure that they have access to the building and that that the exercise can go off without a hitch. And so on those daily operational things are good. When it comes to some longer term policy things, look, they've got focuses that don't always match the focuses of the city, but that's because they've got to focus on the fourth largest geographic county in the state, and we've only got to focus on the 17th largest population city in the state that's only 10 square miles. So they've got hundreds of square miles to worry about, and we're only 10 of it. And so sometimes, there's not going to be agreement on what's a primary focus because our little slice of the county isn't the whole county.
I would like to know where the mayor comes up with these statistics. I can't. I mean, he's got great recall of these 17th and all this stuff. That's good stuff. But to add to that, one of the things we really want to do in the coming years is to find areas of agreement and areas of redundancy that if the county is better handling something that we've been doing, then let them do it. Or if the city's better at doing something, or if there's a partnership. One of the things that we're looking at, and the mayor can probably speak to it a little more in detail than I can, but the idea of central booking, so that a lot of the sort of redundancies in the police department and the county are not there. That they don't happen because we could have a lot more efficient police department in conjunction with the sheriff's department as far as when people are arrested, that there's not sort of this basically double entry thing that happens where when people are booked. There's some real areas of efficiency that we could, by moving to that system of central booking, it would be much better.
That looks like all the time we have today. I'd like to thank the mayor and the council for the good job they do and for being accessible via town hall each month.
Dave, thank you. Marco, thank you. Commissioners Malkus, Harrington, thank you guys as well.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks,
you all.
guys.
Looking forward to next month. And a reminder to listeners, next month we're moving to the first Tuesday of the month, if anyone has not heard that.